Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Book Readers Talks. As the name suggests, the guest talks to us about the book he or she reads and speaks about the author. We have here today the French language professional, Sanhita Samant. Let's see which author she has picked up today to discuss. Hi, Sanhita. Welcome to the show.
Hello,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So, which author you have chosen today to speak about?
Today's author is Dr. Jennifer Boyd, commonly known as Jenny Boyd, as she chooses
Okay.
to go by Jenny
Mhm.
as a shorter version. She is British.
British. Okay. So, which books have you chosen today?
So, Dr. Boyd has only written two books, but I still feel that she is an author who's, even though she just has two books in her name, I feel that they're both so different and both so interesting that I
Hmm.
thought I should choose to speak about her works today.
Sure.
Um, just to give a bit of an introduction to why I chose her.
Mhm.
So everyone knows who the Beatles are, and
Mhm.
she is someone who was associated with the Beatles indirectly, in a way, directly maybe. She is the younger sister of George Harrison's former wife, Pattie Boyd, who is the great muse behind songs like Something. Uh, and of course, Eric Clapton's song Layla and Wonderful Tonight were also written about Pattie Boyd. And both Pattie and Jenny used to model together in the 1960s. They've done many campaigns together as sisters individually. And so Jenny has seen the rock and roll music industry from very
Mhm.
close by, and she was a model, as I said, but she wasn't as serious about modeling the way her sister was.
Mhm.
Which is why a lot of people would, obviously, because people love comparisons, they would say that the older one seems more focused in modeling, but this one not too much. Well, she
Mhm.
was still very young. She was still in her teen years, early 20s, and not everybody needs to figure everything out by that age. And she had actually accompanied the Beatles when they came here to India
Oh.
to see the to see Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and she even did the meditation course, and she realized that modeling may not be her call. So she actually left modeling, and she was still associated with the music industry as she later on went to get married to Mick Fleetwood from Fleetwood and Mac. So she was still around musicians, around all those people for years. But as it's always said, that you only feel that it is glamorous because you're not living it. So this is something that Jenny has also faced. She saw all sides of this industry, so she had to distance herself from it, and she decided to get a doctorate. And her topics was basically what she faced in the industry, what she saw. And her first book is called Musicians in Tune, um, where she interviewed the musicians that she knew and she had always been around, just to ask them their creative process, how all their hits came and what was the process. This is the book where she chose to interview musicians that she knew and she was around, to ask them their creative process and how their hits came, and basically just to get a little bit more insider about what their creative process is like. So the first book is this Q&A format, and she's interviewed, obviously, George Harrison, as this was her former brother-in-law, and
Mhm.
she has seen this group quite close. and of course Fleetwood Mac members, and Ravi Shankar was also interviewed in this,
Oh.
and Eric Clapton, of course, and quite a few others. I believe Jeff Beck also, who was a friend of Eric Clapton and is one of the greatest guitarists of all time. Sadly, he passed away a while back, but he is definitely one of the biggest names when it comes to guitarists. Whenever there are these magazines publishing the greatest guitarists of all time, he is undoubtedly always finding his way in the top five, as he deserves to be. So these are just a few people who she interviewed. There's a lot more, but these were a few examples. And so this, of course, she used her degree of being a PhD in psychology, and this was a little bit of somewhat like, I'm aware that in psychology they have these experiments, they have these interviews where they ask about creative processes. So this was taking advantage of her degree and using it uh, for something that the people would love. So she used her past to help with her present, and gave us this amazing interviews that she's done with these people. Um, and the second book came many years later. It came in 2020. There's a huge gap between her two books, but I think there are some authors who take gaps because they just haven't felt the need to write in that time, and she was navigating a lot of different things. Um, so her second book, which is Jennifer Juniper, that came out in 2020, actually, a big gap, almost 2 decades after the first one. Um, and this one is a memoir. Here she has gone into her life. The first one was about the lives of the people she knows, and this one is about herself. And there are extracts and little references about her past and all the people that she's been with, and she's gone into detail about her life as a Mrs. Rockstar, because she was Mick Fleetwood's wife, and Mick, all those who know and listen to classic rock very well would absolutely know who Fleetwood Mac is. And so both the Beatles fans and Fleetwood Mac fans both know her because she was associated with them. But being someone is not always the identity you want. You want your own. And her books are her identity. Her PhD is her identity. So for us, we always like to call her Dr. Boyd. We don't we always try our best. Sometimes it does happen to Beatles fans because we know her as George Harrison's ex-sister-in-law, but that's ex, first of all, in-law. So uh, you would want to give a little bit more respect to her name, and not just say, oh, she is the younger sister of the model that George Harrison was previously married to. That's not a very nice way to give someone's introduction. It would be any day better to say that she is Dr. Boyd, um, who is an author and a psychologist. And Dr. Boyd has also helped many people fight addiction, as she knows what it is like in the industry to get addicted to these things very fast. And she has a team of counselors and psychiatrists in the US and the UK. So she's definitely found ways to help the people. As she truly knows in detail, in depth, what it's like to be in that industry and be an addict. She's seen people around her so closely, and of course, I'm sure after doing a doctorate in psychology, she really knows what these things are. I mean, I did 2 years of psychology in 11th and 12th, and we also read a little bit about
Mhm.
addictions and disorders. So since she's done a doctorate, she knows much in detail what can happen if you're an addict. So she's really helped a lot of people. Um, so the name of her book, Jennifer Juniper, is actually a song that was written for her by the artist Donovan, and she chose to use the name of this song for her memoir. And of course, a lot of people were excited that she used the name of the song written for her. They're like, "Oh, this is the song that Donovan wrote for her." So they were very excited for what this book might be. And I obviously pre-ordered it the minute she announced that the book is coming, because I really wanted to know what she's going to write about. And she's very descriptive. um, Both her and her sister have written books, and they're both very descriptive. They give you all the information without pouring in too much, or just small bits. They're very descriptive in nature, so it's very nice to read their works.
That's good. Would you like to quote some lines from any of the books?
I think I can take out this extract from uh, Jennifer Juniper.
Sure.
This is just an extract where she was talking about the fame that the Beatles had. And this was an extract from her book that I always read, and it really tells you exactly how big the group was. Uh,
Mhm.
so she was with George Harrison, and she could see that there are people around him, but they wanted him to play a few chords. They were saying, "Sing us a song, play us some chords." Um, I looked at George, knowing what state of mind we were all in, and wondered how he was going to pull this one off. He said, "This chord is G, this is C, and this is E." He gave back the guitar, stood up, and began walking towards the street. The crowds were stunned into silence.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, she used to hang out with George quite a lot, as she was his at this time. I think she had just recently become his sister-in-law, and
Oh,
she was also a friend of the other girlfriends and wives. So she really used to be around them. And this little extract, and just the way that she's explained, the crowds were stunned into silence. Uh,
yes.
her writing style is really nice, and it really tells you that anything that the Beatles did, that I think even if the Beatles sneezed, people would stun into silence, because that's how much people loved them.
True.
So what I really liked was that even though she's only written two books, they're both so different from each other. One is a Q&A, and the other is a memoir, which is really interesting, because you would expect maybe the same two kind of books. As she's not exactly, I mean, I don't think a lot of people would consider her a writer. They would just say, "Oh, but she's only written two books, that doesn't make her an author." There are some people that are a bit, they don't think that this is an author, but I absolutely believe she is an author. She also has a blog, and she's written I think around 5 or 6 different articles on her blog, and she's always working on something. So in my eyes, she is an author. An author isn't always somebody who writes 100 books. It can be two, it can be 100, it can be 1,000. They're all authors.
True.
um, and I think what I would like to say about her style, her writing style, is that she keeps you intrigued.
Mhm. Okay.
Which is the previous time, the person I had introduced was Agatha Christie, who
Mhm.
keeps me intrigued in her own way, and Dr. Boyd in her own way. They've both
Oh,
kept me very intrigued. And I believe Dr. Boyd is working on more. more books, more material she had mentioned.
Mhm.
So I'm very excited for whatever will be coming soon. I'm always excited to see what she has to give us, because she really has so much information, and she's really led this grand life with so many layers. So I'm very
Mhm.
excited for what she would have to bring to the table.
Wow, nice. You expressed it so nicely. Thank you. For the larger audience who doesn't know about Beatles, can you explain who they are?
Well, I would have to be unbiased when I say this, and this is a definitely an unbiased line, because this is something that worldwide, nationwide is being always said about them. They are one of the greatest musical acts of all time. This quartet of boys from Liverpool uh, just took the world by storm. Usually, if you see these British groups, they're all from the south of England, but this one, all of them were from the north of England, and their accents are obviously a bit different from the posh royal family accent that we hear in the movie, that they all speak like the London accent. So
Mhm.
obviously they were made a bit fun of in the beginning, because their accents were strange for some. But these boys have I would like to say these boys, because they were boys back then. They were
Right.
younger than me, in fact, back when they were starting
Mhm.
out. um, they truly worked so hard. They used to perform in any venue available, and they just spent uh, so much time just performing and performing and performing. And then finally they were called in the United States, and in 1964 they conquered America. And the footage of them arriving in America is one of the most iconic footage of all time, as there was so much screaming that it would absolutely deafen you. The All of America was ready to welcome this group from Liverpool.
Mhm.
Um, their music style definitely changed in the middle of the 10 years that they had together. But I can't even choose which era of theirs I like, because it's just the entire era that's just so it is just so iconic, and they're all so different, but they're also amazing. So I know there are
Mhm.
some people who usually prefer maybe one era of their favorite group and may not like the other, which is also understandable.
Mhm.
Because you have your own taste, you have your own preference. But I think for me, I like their early works, I like their later works. And especially in the later works, I know that there were some cracks in the group. They had lost their manager, and it was getting very difficult. There were many arguments, but even with everything going on, there were people around who managed to get them working harmoniously. And in fact, the last two albums that they made when there were cracks are two of the greatest albums they've made. So
Oh,
even
okay.
with everything going on, Abbey Road and Let It Be are two of the greatest albums that they've made. I think when it comes to all of these rock stars, I just want to say something after being a fan for so many years, is that in
Mhm.
the beginning we all think, I don't think there is anybody who is a classic rock fan and hasn't said, oh, I wish I was also like a classic rock musician. I wish I was associated with my favorite group. But would you really want to be, is the question, especially
Right.
after you read books by people who have been around them, and
Mhm.
and books by the musicians themselves, where they tell you about all their hard times. Everyone just thinks, oh, what they go on stage, they perform, they have parties, they have all these press events, they win awards. It is such an amazing life. They don't have there's nothing wrong. They have so much money, they have big houses, they have big cars. It is such an amazing life. But when they're in a corner, no one cares.
Right.
So when
It's a
they
different
really need
lifestyle.
people, when they really
Mm.
need people, hardly anyone shows up.
Right, right.
So
So
I
it's
think
a
we should
totally different lifestyle. Yeah.
understand that you only see the glorious part. They don't really open up about the bad part, because a lot of people would also give them a lot of nonsense that I don't want to hear about your bad part. Most of it has been good. So don't try to tell me about all the way you've suffered. But I don't think we should be so hard on anybody. In
Mm.
fact, them opening up about their hardships is what helps others. And Jenny, uh, Doctor Dr. Jenny Boyd, what she's done is just something so spectacular. As
Mm.
who would think that this young model who did all these campaigns and shoots for Vogue and these different brands would later on get a doctorate in psychology and help addicts in two different countries, have a big team of people who can help and publish two books. So you really don't know who can become what in the future. So she is a leading example of taking the good part of your past and putting it to good uses for the future.
Right, right. Well said. These books are available online on Amazon.
Yes, yes. Both the books are available on Amazon. Musicians in Tune is now known as It's Not Only Rock and Roll, and it has Eric Clapton on the cover. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and Jennifer Juniper is also available. Both are available on Amazon.
Okay.
And Jennifer Juniper has a very famous photo of hers as the cover. So when we saw that, we were like, "Oh, this photo!" Because this is one of her most iconic uh, uh, individual photos from one of the shoots she did. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and all the pictures that she's put in the book are always a delight to see. I can go on for hours about the Beatles and anyone related, but I will keep this short. I think both her books keep you engrossed entirely, especially the first one, because you have all these different people coming in. It's not just an
Mm.
interview of one person throughout. It can get a
Right.
bit annoying when those books where it's a Q&A of with just one person and a few pages and like how many more questions. But these are different people. You have all these different musicians that she is interviewing. So that one is definitely a bit more different. The second one is a memoir, and the I think that the second one is for people who like reading memoirs,
Mm. Mm.
because there are some people who don't really enjoy memoirs and autobiographies because they're not really interested to learn about personal life so much, which is understandable. But I think anyone who is a listener of the Beatles and Fleetwood Mac would be very interested to read her memoir, as their favorites are mentioned in the book, and they are a very important part of that book. Uh,
Mm.
so they would like to read it. But the first one, I don't think you have to be a fan of just the Beatles or Fleetwood Mac. It's just an interesting Q&A with all these different musicians, these different people, both Americans, British. There's everybody, and also Ravi Shankar. We also have an
Mhm.
Indian musician in there, and George Harrison was very close to Ravi Shankar. In
Mhm.
fact, when George Harrison passed away, Ravi Shankar and his daughter Anushka were both present at the tribute concert made
Mhm.
for him. And Anushka was so young back then, and she had performed during his tribute concert, and I just thought that both her father and George would be so proud of her, as
Mm.
George basically has seen her grow up, and he would just be so happy to see that this little girl
Mhm.
who he used to see when he used to go to see her father is now an accomplished musician in her own right, not just because
Mm.
she is the daughter of Ravi Shankar, but
Right.
she is her own person, Anushka.
Yeah. This is interesting. Yes. So thank you for sharing all this information about Dr. Boyd,
Thank you for having me.
and hope to see you in the next episode with a new author.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.